What will happen when a regular day at the hospital suddenly turns chaotic because an unexpected visitor arrives? No one saw this coming, and when the reason for the visitor's appearance is revealed, it leaves everyone in shock. In Central Hospital, the day began like any other. Doctors and nurses rushed through the halls, focusing on their tasks. But then, something shocking happened that changed everything. Right in the middle of the hospital lobby, a chimpanzee appeared, and everyone froze in disbelief. The most unbelievable part? The chimpanzee was holding a tiny baby tightly in her arms. The child looked no older than 3 months. For a moment, the medical staff just stood there, unsure of what to do next. Among them was Sarah, a brave and calm nurse who had faced many emergencies before. But this was different. As Sarah looked closer, she noticed that the chimpanzee seemed exhausted, its fur soaked from who knows where. The baby in its arms had small injuries, and Sarah's heart sank. How could a chimpanzee end up with a human baby? What was really happening here? Sarah knew she had to act quickly but carefully. She approached the chimpanzee, speaking softly and gently. "It's okay," she whispered, trying to keep her voice calm. To everyone's surprise, the chimpanzee didn't get aggressive. It seemed to trust Sarah. Slowly, Sarah reached out her hands, and after a few tense moments, the chimpanzee let go of the baby, allowing Sarah to safely hold the child. As soon as Sarah held the child, she felt the seriousness of the situation. The baby's small body showed signs of injuries, as if he had been through some kind of accident. "We need to move fast," she shouted to her colleagues. The medical team quickly rushed in, carefully taking the baby to the emergency room. Sarah followed closely, but her thoughts were with the chimpanzee. It hadn't moved from its spot, still watching the doors of the emergency room, almost as if it knew something important was happening. Nearby, Johnson, the head of security, stood frozen, looking confused by everything. Sarah caught his attention and said, "That chimpanzee saved this baby." Johnson, clearly puzzled, didn't know what to say, but he understood this was no ordinary event. Moments later, the local police arrived, uncertain about how to handle such a strange situation. A chimpanzee in a hospital wasn't something they dealt with often. Sarah quickly explained, "She brought the baby here. He looks like he's been in an accident, but we don't know where or how." The chimpanzee, still watching intently, made a soft sound, almost as if she knew the gravity of the situation. Johnson, though unsure, suggested something surprising. "Do you think she could show us where she came from?" It seemed like a long shot, but with everyone ready to explore any lead, Sarah carefully approached the chimpanzee. The animal slowly got up and began walking toward the hospital exit, glancing back as if inviting them to follow. Outside, the rain had lessened, and the group trailed the chimpanzee through the streets. After what felt like hours of walking, they reached a deserted road that led into a dark, muddy forest. The air was thick with tension. At the edge of the road, they discovered a car wreck, hidden under mud and leaves. The car was overturned, with shattered windows. Inside, they found the tragic scene of a man and a woman, the baby's parents, who had sadly died in the crash. The police officers were stunned. They didn't believe that this chimpanzee really saved the baby. Sarah's heart ached as she stared at the wreck. How did this chimpanzee know to rescue the baby and bring him to the hospital? What had she seen? And how did she know where to go? But before we dive into the full story, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you never miss out on any of our amazing animal stories. Let's continue the story. At the hospital, the baby was rushed into intensive care, and the medical team worked urgently to help him. Meanwhile, the chimpanzee stayed close, not wanting to leave. Johnson suggested removing her, but Sarah stopped him. She saw a strong connection between the chimpanzee and the baby. She just wanted to be near him. Soon, Dr. Alex, a primate expert, arrived and examined the chimpanzee. He was amazed and said, "She's protecting this baby like it's her own. It's rare, but it happens." The chimpanzee made a soft grunt, as if to agree. Dr. Alex explained that she must have seen the crash and felt it was her only choice to save the baby. As the baby received urgent medical care, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about the chimpanzee and the unusual connection she seemed to have with the child. The mystery deepened when Dr. Alex looked into the chimpanzee's past. He discovered she wasn't just any wild animal. Years ago, she had been rescued from illegal captivity, where she had lived with humans for most of her early life. Eventually, she was rehabilitated and released into a forest reserve, not far from where the accident happened. Sarah was shocked to learn that the chimpanzee had grown up around humans. Dr. Alex explained that this experience made her different from other wild animals. She spent years with people, he said, so hearing the baby cry likely stirred a maternal instinct in her. As Sarah connected the dots, it became clear. The accident site was near the forest reserve where the chimpanzee lived. The baby's cries must have led her to the wreck, and her past with humans drove her to save the child. News of the chimpanzee's brave rescue quickly spread. The incredible story of a chimpanzee, once held in captivity, saving a baby's life, captured everyone's hearts. Headlines celebrated the chimpanzee's courage, and people were moved by her actions. But for Sarah and Dr. Alex, there were still big questions. What would happen to the chimpanzee now? Could she go back to the forest after all that had happened? The baby, who was recovering in the hospital, had no family left. His parents had died in the accident, and no relatives had come forward. Sarah, who had been there for the baby from the start, felt a strong bond with him. She realized that she couldn't let him go to an orphanage. She had become deeply attached to him, and he had filled a space in her life she hadn't known was missing. One quiet morning, Sarah made a life-changing decision. She approached Dr. Alex and said she wanted to adopt the baby. Dr. Alex looked at her with understanding and asked if she was sure, knowing adoption was a big responsibility. Sarah replied without hesitation, "He's already a part of me. I can't let him go after everything that's happened." Her words were filled with determination and love. Weeks later, with the help of Dr. Alex and the authorities, Sarah officially adopted the baby. He now had a new home, filled with love and care. As the baby's future became secure, something changed in the chimpanzee. She no longer stayed close to the hospital, and her protective instincts seemed to fade away. Dr. Alex watched the chimpanzee closely. "She knows the baby is safe now," he said softly. "Her job is done." The day finally arrived for the chimpanzee to go back to the forest reserve. There was a mix of sadness and gratitude in the air as Sarah prepared to say goodbye. Before the chimpanzee left, Sarah approached her one last time. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. The chimpanzee didn't make any big gesture. She simply looked at Sarah and the baby, her eyes calm and understanding. As the vehicle carrying her disappeared down the road, Sarah held her adopted son close, feeling a deep sense of peace. At that moment, everything seemed to fall into place. The strange and miraculous events had led them here, and the future now seemed full of hope. Sarah knew that love, courage, and sacrifice had shaped this new chapter of her life, and she was ready to embrace whatever came next. So, what are your thoughts about this heart-touching story? Share your opinions in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on our new animal stories. Your support means the world to us.